Good morning, it's Torte de Lini. Before I start, can you guys let me know in the comments if you prefer these videos with the jazz music you're hearing now, gameplay sounds, or you just want my voice and nothing else? It would help me a lot in understanding what you guys all prefer. Obviously, the jazz music gives a bit of a lighter morning listening kind of feel, NPR style. Gameplay sounds is probably what most people are comfortable with, but can be distracting. And then no sound can be, too much because you find my voice too grating to hear exclusively. Let me know. So let's talk about this hero here. One of the only strength carries popular this patch. Sven is making rounds in pro matches. I think we have the stats for the latest Dream League 2022. The most recent Dream League, he was at 57% when I wrote this. Now he's at 51%. Still very good. He is one of the most popularly picked carries next to Terrorblade, but Terrorblade, that also includes him being picked as a support hero. Nice flex pick, which we talked about last week, I think. Check that video out. Pretty much the premise is one of the biggest issues with Sven is that he has challenges closing the gap on enemies during a critical period of his ultimate ability, God Strength. In the past, Silver Edge and Blink Dagger were options that helped him get the jump on enemies and keep them there with his stun. Stormhammer, long enough for his high damage, strength-based cleave physical output to kind of shred enemies. In recent patches, he wasn't really picked all that much. We can see in 7.35C, he is very popular. I mean, these are just the matches where he won, right? Imagine how much more he's played when he's lost. That says a lot, but really in previous patches, he wasn't really seen, right? During the strength meta, you thought he'd be there, but he was surprisingly not that popular due to the fact that most of the enemies, one, had too much health and survivability to kind of just outlast him, way past, his stun duration or even his God Strength duration. But another issue is that the games lasted longer than when Sven wants to keep playing, right? Sven's a really good mid-game tempo setting hero, and most games were like 45-50 minutes, so really that's way past when Sven comes online, and it comes to a point where everyone else is just way too strong, or more importantly has ways to kind of push him around or push him away and kite him, right? Heroes like Chaos Knight were also just better versions, right? They came for crit, they had illusions, they farmed really well as well. They built up strength items, so they really took advantage of the strength meta and the strength value. The health to strength conversion was very high. Another hero that was very popular as a character was Muerta, which just kites and out damage Sven, since his Warcry armor buff does nothing versus her magic base attack damage output. And then if you guys don't remember, the great bully of the patch back then for TI 2023 was Spearbreaker, another hero during TI that would just disrupt Sven during the moment he would want to jump in, continuously stun him, completely use Bulldoze to get out of his Stormhammer to then stun him again. It just wasn't good for Sven. Previously in 7.35 as well, with the popularity of Shiva's Guard and armor, and the slow also made Sven pretty unpopular compared to heroes who could do mixed damage and had a more reliable, let's say, disabling ability like Faceless Void's Chronosphere to kind of deal with that lineup, right? Sven just wasn't that good up until now. This patch specifically across the past year of patches, really this patch, there's nothing really too much changed about Sven that kind of says now he's super OP, right? If we actually look at 7.34, they made Stormhammer a toggle between his normal AoE stun of Stormhammer, where you just cast it, and the Ags version, where you go with it like Superman, which you'll see in a little bit. I think we're going to see it in about a second or two. So basically, you're not obligated to commit to a fight every time you want to stun your opponents with this new change in 7.34. And in 7.35, they gave the Ags version that we're seeing now more damage, up from 320 to 500. So if you just do Stormhammer no regularly, it's just a 320 damage, nothing to sneeze at. But if you go with it like Superman, it's 500. I guess another small change that is also something to make note of is that his Echo Saber and his Harpoon got a small boost in strength and bonus damage, which plays really well as Sven, who just needs a few swings to kind of wipe out enemies incredibly quickly, and more damage definitely echoes that desire, especially with God Strength giving a percentage bonus of your damage. increase, obviously. But really, in terms of relative balancing, he hasn't received any massive buffs that would make him stand out as a carry, but rather he is a response to the current meta that has lessened its grip on Shiva's Guard's popularity. They nerfed it, they increased the cost, made the safe lane a bit harder to survive for agi carries and those who buy Wraith bands, while still emphasizing the importance that compounds that importance into your spike timing during the mid game to close the game out. This is key here. Watch how he engages. Pretty much nothing you can do here. Just brutal. That's a nice team wipe there. Really, Sven is kind of the summary of all that's happening in this meta, right? He's a stable laner, which he got buffed even harder with Great Cleave, now giving even more strength in patch 7.35b, and this gives him both more elasticity power and survivability against harassment through a health increase with the strength. His War Cry also both gives him and his teammate the necessary armor to help survive against popular offlane heroes and their physical damage, like God's Rebuke or Luna's Moonglaive. She's not offlane, obviously, but you know, during team fights, that Moonglaive bounces to everyone and just pretty much destroys them. And he also combos well with popular offlaners when it comes to maneuvering in that mid game, right? Centaur's Warrunner Stampede helps, you know, Sven close the gap and initiate. Magnus is reverse polarity for Sven to then follow up with his own Stormhammer AoE stun, and God's Strength massive damage to clean out the camp, clean up the enemy team lineup. All this has kind of made Sven even more of a justifiable pick that we started seeing in pro games and now pub games as well, or vice versa. But honestly, and this is the part we want to talk about, the most important reason Sven is picked up more is his Ag Scepter, which has replaced his usual purchase of Blink Dagger. Now, Ag Scepter has a lesser range, but it achieves two things for Sven. It goes from stunning the enemy to bringing Sven within attack range of them, and this is the most important part, it dispels the enemy from any buffs they may be receiving. And this is a meta where heroes are looking to regularly rid their debuffs, maneuver in and out of fights, and take down enemies quickly. Sven kind of cuts right through that and wants to quickly finish opponents off upon stunning them. That style of finish enemies fast mantra only works for so long, and that's why he needs to finish the game early as Sven. Else the enemy will eventually outlast and eventually overtake him and his team, right? That's kind of the bottom line now. I love this kill. Beautiful. The other factor that we see Sven in this patch, more so in pro matches than public matches, is that pro teams are drafting around Sven, giving him good crowd control heroes like Lion or, as we mentioned before, Magnus, but also taking, let's say, a Timbersaw. They'll pick Timbersaw in pro matches so that Sven isn't so easily countered, because Timbersaw's Whirling Death makes it kind of a nightmare for the hero since he relies on his strength for damage, and Whirling Death reduces that primary attribute that really hinders Sven's efficiency, we'll call it. Lastly, with team fighting starting rather early in the patch, Sven is ready across different increments of his core build, involving Mask of Madness, Echo Saber, Black King Bar, Ag Scepter, Daedalus. It makes Sven kind of ready to fight and flexible in the early to mid game whenever the team wants to go. So for coordinated pro matches, it makes sense that we're seeing more Sven. I also want to make note that I'll talk about it in a little bit here, but during the lane stage, Sven also has a really good comeback mechanic in that he can come back from bad lane with his cleave to farm the jungle fast, right? Jungle camps give less gold overall, but if you can farm it very quickly, well, then you compensate a little bit for that differential. We'll talk about it in my conclusion, don't worry. So what are the ramifications of this? Well, frankly, this is a kind of a cop-out answer when it talks about Sven, but it really shows how the meta is transitioning beyond agi mixed damage picks and more towards how to respond to these kinds of lineups and heroes. That said, we can also see how important stable safe laners like Sven and easy farming carries are important due to the speed of which team fights are starting and how soon the laning stage is kind of wrapping up. For heroes like Sven, Luna, Slark, they're kind of no-brainers why these heroes are becoming regularly more popular, given their ease of transition from a sometimes uncomfortable safe lane to a smooth sailing jungle farming routine and tempo, especially if your supports are stacking camps for you. So let's conclude it up here. Sven's stable laning stage and ease of comfort to farm stack jungle camps post early game has risen him as a popular stable hero to draft. We see more Sven in pub matches in pro games and pub matches as pro teams build strategies around him and ban or pick common counters against him, like Timbersaw. Sven Scepter has replaced his core items of Blink Dagger because its Dispel grounds play out popular heroes with strong maneuverability and buffs. And lastly, Sven capitalizes on early game team fighting wins to try to end the game early before rivaling enemy carries eventually overtake him deep in the late game. So that's it. Quick video today as I'm likely in the air or landing in Taipei, Taiwan. I said this for another video I made that's going to come out a little bit next week. If you like the stuff or my hero builds, please let me know or share my content. These kind of small things really help me grow and eventually be able to do more stuff like this sustainably, assuming you like it. If you don't like it, well, enjoy the free video. Thanks again and have a good morning.